Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Merci de vous être joints à nous pour cette conférence ce soir. Mon nom est Hoy, je suis chargé de projet pour la compagnie Forward Movement. Alors, l'équipe est vraiment honorée d'accueillir Kosi et OG Buddha Stretch pour la conférence de cette semaine. Thank you everyone for tuning in. My name is Hoy. I'm a project manager for Forward Movement. The team is honored to welcome Kosi and OG Buddha Stretch for this week's panel. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our panelists. So over the last decades, dance has brought Buddha Stretch all over the world, and he has heavily influenced the dance communities with his hip-hop freestyle, and also by bridging the gap between old school and new school. Kosi is a Canadian rising star in the international street dance community and has been earning stripes all over the world by competing and teaching. She is also known as a facilitator and a leader within her local community in Toronto, promoting health, mental well-being, and resilience amongst youth. So if you have any questions during the conference, please let us know in the messages and we'll do our best to answer them at the end of the conference. Si jamais vous avez des questions durant la conférence, s'il vous plaît, nous laissez savoir et écrire vos messages dans le chat et on va faire de notre mieux pour répondre à vos questions à la fin. On a 30 minutes allouées à cet effet. So from New York to the world, the floor is yours, Kosi. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Welcome, 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 everyone. Thank you for being here on a Thursday night. I'm excited. I'm wearing sunglasses. Please forgive me. The lighting is hella bright, but we do what we got to do to give you this lovely background. I want to throw it to Buddha real quick. Just to, a little warm up. How are you? How you doing? How goes it?
Unmute. Hee-haw, talking and you can't hear me. How about that? Alrighty then, let's recap. What's up, Kosi? What's up, Ford? What's up, everyone? Yeah, I'm doing good. Hoping everyone else is doing well during this strange year we call 2020 and this pandemic. And do your research. Don't believe what everybody tells you.
Hey, I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. Do your own research. Don't believe what anybody tells you. What a way to kick it off. Okay, thank you, Kairos, for having us. And we don't have much time, but we want as much knowledge coming from this enigma of a man as we possibly can. So we're just going to hop right into it and get it popping. So I have a few questions here for the legend in front of us. But I wanted to kick it off with something I saw that was very interesting to me, and that's the fact that you now say previously known as Buddha Stretch along with your name. Do you mind sort of giving us any insight into why previously known as?
Previously known as?
It said on Facebook, previously known as.
Oh, no. PKA is publicly known as, not
Publicly
previously.
known as.
Yes, not
There
previously. I'm still that guy. Yeah, publicly known as Buddha Stretch. I haven't changed. I would, my t-shirts would be useless now if I did. No, it's publicly known as.
We love that. We love that. I don't want to be, addressing you as something that you're previously known
Oh,
as.
hell no, no. I mean, for me, I'm not changing my name. I either have my dad's name or my street and Buddhist name, which is Buddha Stretch. So I'm not going to go off the rails and, or do some, I'm not on the level of Prince where I could just change my name to a symbolism. I'm not that guy. So it's PKA, publicly known as Buddha Stretch. Perfect. Real name, Emilio Eduardo Austin Jr. after my dad. Panama in the building. Yeah.
Yes. Represent the roots always. So let's get into it. Yes. Is there anything else you would like the people to know before we, just kind of launch into these questions? Hoy did a great job with your bio, but anything else that you want to
Nothing really. I mean, I don't even know what my bio even says anymore. I mean, I remember some of it, but it's so old. No, I'm just for the people to know that have never talked. I represent hip hop culture, not just the dance. I'm an MC. I'm a DJ. I'm a dancer. I'm a writer. I do graph. You know, in my when I entered the culture, you represented the culture, not anything in particular. You honed your skills in everything, not in one thing. So that's, if you wonder when I speak on something, that's where I'm coming from. You know, I'm representing the entire culture, not just any particular aspect of it.
Incredible, incredible. So along that breath and with that, the first question here is, for those who might not know, for those who are unfamiliar, could you just give us a brief explanation in your understanding of how hip hop dance came to be specifically? We don't want
Okay.
to cast too broad a net.
Right. Well, first and foremost, let's qualify here. So people, you know, so the uneducated b-boys don't get it twisted.
Absolutely.
The first dance in hip hop culture is breaking, b-boying, or we called it breaking. We didn't call it b-boying, b-girling. We called it breaking. That's the first dance. On that timeline, that starts with the first generation, you know, Dancing Doug, what's his name? Charlie Rock, that group, those guys, the original B-boys from the Bronx, 73, all the way to when my generation took over is when breaking died. Breaking died after the over commercialization with the movies, Breaking 1, Breaking 2, Beat Street, Body Rock. Mind you, all of these things came out within a year of each other. You know, some of them came out within a couple of months. So by 1985, breaking had died, and that's when we just started freestyling. You know, and we mixed everything together. And when I say we, it's the people that I danced with. We started together. You know, people say, "Oh, you're the father of hip." No, I'm not. I'm one of the people that started. You know, I had a whole crew. It wasn't just me. So when we say hip hop dance, that's what we're talking about. The reason this way to hip hop music, you know, to rap music of the time. If you played Planet Rock, we're going to pop. If you played Just Begun, we're going to break. If you played Eric B for president, we're going to do hip hop. And later in the late 90s, early 2000s is when we labeled it freestyle hip hop. Because with respect to breaking being the original dance of the culture, you know, and people tend to get it twisted. I started as a b-boy. I started as a b-boy and a popper in 1982. So don't tell me about, breaking. I was the b-boy. Cut it out.
Let them know.
I wasn't a great b-boy. I was better at popping, thus. But I do know the basics, and I was a b-boy, and I was part of a crew. So that's my base.
No doubt. Thank you so much for that. Honestly, it especially for me, it feels so much better hearing it straight from someone who's there, who experienced the things and can really break it down to you, even though, like you said, you weren't the best b-boy. You were still there. You knew your stuff, and you were experiencing it firsthand in order to recall that for all of us here. So appreciate that. Always.
Definitely. Thank you.
So then I wanted to tie in this principle. Being African, I'm Nigerian. There's this principle from Ghana, and it's Sankofa. For all my Ghanaians, if there's anyone who's Ghanaian here, please forgive me if I butchered that pronunciation. But I believe it to be called Sankofa, which means, in essence, you have to go back, look to the past to be able to move forward. And
The house could be, you know, you could build it horizontally or vertically or both if the foundation is strong. The foundation is weak, it's going to fall apart.
There you have it. For all the 22 attendees, there you have it. Knowledge. Yeah, I think that principle is super important for me as well, for how I learn things. Yeah, just really quickly, coming from Nigeria, moving over, not really understanding, like I said, my place, knowing that I had something to tie back to for myself. Being born and raised in Nigeria was a lot more helpful to help me understand hip hop culture. So if there's a tidbit from Kosi today, it's not about me today, but if there's a tidbit from Kosi today, it's that. Moving right along. Now, what would a conference be right now if we don't address what's happening in the world at the moment? I think it's important for us to, you know, reflect upon everything. And we know that hip hop emerged from sort of this socioeconomic disparity, you know what I mean, at the time. And right now we're seeing, if I'm looking over, please bear with me, I have questions.
No
in the present day, we see more and more artists, you know, engaging with the state of the world. Now, with your wealth of knowledge, how do you see everything going on impacting the work and the art that's going to be produced from now on? What do you think is going to happen?
Truth be told, I don't have the faintest idea what's going to happen.
Right.
What I'd like to happen is for people to not be so defensive on both sides of the coin when we're talking about culture and you know, what is it called? Can't think of the word. From the standpoint of when we say that hip hop and street dance is Black culture, that does not mean that it's not, you know, anybody else, only Black people can do it, or you're being racist, because no, as we started off, that's the foundation, that's the beginning, it's built off of that. All of the music that we dance to and listen to is Black culture. That does not mean it's not for everyone. What people really need to understand is that Black culture and by default, African culture is universal culture because humanity started in Africa. Civilization started in Africa. All of the culture's language started in Africa. So all we're doing is sharing and resharing the same culture and over and over again. So when we say that it's Black culture, it doesn't mean that it's not your culture. If I say you're a guest in the culture, that's a good thing. Because guess what? I'm a guest in the West Coast culture. I'm not from the West Coast. You know, yeah, I can pop, I can lock, I can whack, I can crump. I can't crump. But I'm a guest in that culture because it's not my culture. It's connected to what I do, but it has its own region, its own history, its own foundation, and I have to learn that and represent that first before I put my spin on it. So I'm a guest in that culture, and that culture is in the same country I'm in, and it branches from the same thing.
Right.
It's a subculture of Black culture, but I'm still a guest in that, even though I'm Black. You know, and people tend to, you know, they get a little, you know, confrontational or you know, their insecurities start running amok, and they feel some kind of way. And I'm here to tell you that that's okay, but it's a feeling. Let it come and let it go. Because the fact of the matter is, no matter how you feel, this is a fact. This is not a truth. This is a fact. You know, this is not my truth that I'm telling you. This is an actual fact. And facts, you can't get around them. You know, water is wet. Okay, that's not a truth. That is a fact. It's a
Tell him
liquid.
again.
Even if you freeze it, it's still wet. If you boil it, it becomes steam. It's still wet. Those are facts. They cannot be, you can't contest facts. So let's just leave it at that. These are facts. So once you get past that, then you learn that, okay, it's okay. I'm a guest in this culture. I can do my thing and take the culture and build my own subculture in it and share it. And then other guests will, this is how the culture grows.
Indeed, like truly, I think everything's a little bit fragile right now. Not only from those who are guests or this, that, and the third. Everything's a little fragile right now. So I hear that completely. But you're right. These are facts. These are things that cannot be got around. This is Black culture. The onus belongs to a certain people, and there's no way to get around that.
No, there isn't. And why would you want to get around it? Like, what are you trying to accomplish by trying to get around it? Is your ego bruised? Is your soul hurt or something? Like, come on. Some things are, it's mind-boggling that people are holding on to this so tight. Like this is something new. The whole guest in the culture thing isn't new. We've been telling people they were guests in the cultures for 15 plus years now. It's just that now you're forced to as I go back to the beginning of this question, you're forced now to understand that you've been riding on a privilege that you assume that you have. And now that privilege, you've come to the realization that A, your privilege is based on nonsense. B, it's based in your ego and you need to put your ego away. And C, it's based on, a specific people, the specific people whose culture that you've been profiting off of. It's based on, their suffering.
Ooh.
And now you're forced to see that because COVID has sat everybody down and said, hold tight.
Keyword, suffering, anguish, pain. Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head with that. And that's where a lot of the fragility comes from, not being able to address the fact that you're causing a bit of this by doing what you're doing. And this is just general, we're not trying to pinpoint any certain people, but whomever. And that, and also, like you said, realizing that you're riding a privilege that you assumed was yours to keep. Things were yours to keep, and so on and so forth. But we shall move on. I feel like if we sit on that one, we'll keep going.
No worries.
We shall keep going. Right. We are zooming through these questions. The fourth question I have for you. Now, this is about music, and I'm gonna get real serious here.
Okay.
All right. Got my free Wayne t-shirt on.
Free his mind because he was voting for Donald Trump. Free his mind, please.
That too. The shirt is hella old, y'all. Don't come for me.
Yeah.
Right.
It's still relevant.
No. Very relevant. Free him, free Kanye.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about music.
Okay.
My favorite topic. We're talking about early influences in music. Can you recall the soundtracks? These are two-part questions. The first question is, can you recall the soundtracks of that specific time? And that specific time being your youth in New York. Is there any tracks that you remember that we sort of might have put on the back burner, or anything that means something to you?
Put on the back burner. I can't really say that because I don't think of it as being put on the back burner. I just think that new generations haven't been exposed or, introduced to that level of music yet. They're still stuck on these Nintendo beats. So they're missing, you know, a lot of, you know, they're stuck on the whole, you know, I've had people tell me that trap isn't hip hop, but you're singing the latest Pop Smoke song or something, and like, that's trap. So what are you doing? Like, and then they think that that sound is somehow new. But if they listen to Mantronics or Original Concept, you would hear the 808 in that entire sound back in the 1980s, which is 30 years ago. So again, do your due diligence, as DJ Renegade would say, or, you know, do your research.
Right.
The music is timeless. You know, it's, as with everything in life, it's a spiral. Everything starts, goes around and comes back, goes around and comes back. And as it goes up, it changes. Some of it spirals back down and spirals back up. I mean, that's life. As far as the specific sound, I mean, for me, growing up in the culture, there was no one sound. There was never one sound.
No.
You know, in the my very earliest recollection, the first rap record that I ever heard and danced to was Rapper's Delight. It's 1979. I'm in not even in middle school yet. I'm still in regular school. And I remember dancing to that at my 5th grade prom, doing splits and all kinds of stuff. And that record was huge. And I knew it was huge because my dad loved that record.
Right.
You know, my dad loved that record. He would sing this song every time it came on. So I'm like, if my dad is singing this, and all of my friends and my cousins and people that I know of my generation and a bit older love this song, and then my dad loves it, something must be good about this song.
About this song, right.
You know? And, you know, after that, so that has a specific sound of it. You know, Rapper's Delight is sampling Good Times, which is a disco song, you know, and it was a big, big, big record. Not too long after that, you have one of the biggest records of all time, Planet Rock, that has the electro sound, you know, which is Kraftwerky and all of that. And that becomes, you know, the biggest record of all time at the time. Right. And then right after that, they introduce a rap record that goes back to the essence, if you will, with a break beat. And it's Run DMC, Sucker MCs. But instead of the break beat, they reproduced the break beat on a drum machine. Ooh. That changes the sound again. Absolutely. So now you're going back to the break, but it's being reproduced in a different way with a different sound, but it still has the same essence of the drum. You know, and then as time passes, now you got a mixture of, you know, that hip hop sound and R&B with Houdini. You know, God, you know, I got to give a shout out to the master rapper Jalil and Ecstasy, my folks. They were the first to mix a whole more of an adult sound, as they called it, adult R&B sound with hip hop. So that changed it a bit. And then you get into my particular era, and the era of hip hop dance per se, and you get the James Brown sound. Now it's just James Brown samples. Right. You're sampling James Brown. And now you got breaks and more breaks and more breaks and funk. You got bass and guitar. And now everybody's like James Brown. And then now from James Brown, that brings back the whole funk, Parliament and Funkadelic. And Earth, Wind, and Fire, and Kool and the Gang. So now you got people sampling that. So that runs the gamut. And, you know, so the music is constantly doing this. It's just rotated, you know, but in a new form. Right. And as I explained in class to people, when you listen to some of the trap songs, they're basically break beats reprogrammed again and slowed down. So it's still the essence of the culture, which is the break.
Right.
You know, if you start with breaking, that's what the break is. The breakdown in the song where it breaks down to the bare essence of the song. Usually either just the drums or the drums and the bass line or the drums and the horns. So that's what what the music is based in. And I think people don't really pay attention to that. They just think, oh, I like this and I don't like that. Or I heard that is whack. And it's like, bruh, if you fall back and listen, you know, but then that's a whole nother conversation because half of these people don't listen to their music anyway.
Woo-wee! We're on it. We're on the topic and I love it. So in my practice of sort of going back to go forward, I continue to be collecting samples. Hear a song, what is that sample? What did that song sample? And so on and so forth. So I'm so happy that you brought that up organically. Because not only has that helped me train my ear, quote unquote, so to say, but understanding the time and the era that something came from, that something was sampled from, helps you understand the song that samples it and so on and so forth. It's blown my mind. the intricacy of something, even down to what type of instruments are used and how that defines an era, you know, whether it's the Roland TR, you know, this, that, and the third. We're getting hella technical. For everyone in the audience.
For those in the audience that don't know what a Roland is, it's a drum machine. TR 606, 707, 808, and on.
Bang, bang. You know, and like you said, sampling, Kool and the Gang, Parliament Funkadelic, and how that influences the music that comes from it. It's beautiful, and it allows an organic transfer of movement rather than just, oh, this is hip hop.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's more like this is movement, and I hear this and that, and I can embody it, and so on and so forth.
The real thing that'll bug you out is for the people out here that are not just into hip hop, but into street dance as a whole. Say you're listening to A Tribe Called Quest. Oh my God. But if you play the original, which is Kool and the Gang, you're not going to get A Tribe Called Quest. You're going to get a feeling of a different kind of dance, which would be funk, which would be locking. You get that the whole feel of it changes. And so if you're into locking now, you are connected to both styles from one song.
That's it. We can end there. No, I'm playing. But gems. Wow. Okay. I wanna. This fifth question is a bit robust, so I'm just gonna go to the last question that I had, and it's about style. It's about fashion, which is another sort of facet of the culture. You know, what we put on, our style of dress. We see lots of cycles of reinvention. Now, being from New York and having something like the Air Force One, now we're talking sneaker talk.
Right.
You know, it's like a cultural artifact. Is there anything, clothing, accessory, a way of being, that you want to be recognized in the same way from where you're from in New York?
That I want to be recognized?
Yeah, like in the same way, something that again has been lost in like the fabric of time that you'd like to see come back.
Me in particular, nah. For me, I like how the style changes. You know, I like how it. For me, I always look, as you say, going back to move forward. When I see things that people are rocking now, I connect them to what we were rocking then and what was being rocked before us. So for me, it's all just a cipher, and I'm taking bits and pieces and try to, you know, reinvent it, you know, and add my little spin to it. I remember when the whole skinny jeans thing started, and you know, people are like, I never wear skinny jeans and blah 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 blah. Now I see these fools with sweatpants that are, you know, their ankles look like they choking. And that you talking about you wouldn't wear skinny jeans. But then I remember back in the 80s, we wore skinny jeans. The Lees weren't baggy. They were straight leg. Okay. And if you look at the rappers back then in the early 80s, they were wearing tight leather pants.
Right.
So what are y'all talking about? It wasn't good then, and now it's not good. That, like, what are you talking about? They say, oh, these dudes dress weird. Well, what was they dressing back then when you were listening to Grandmaster Flash, The Message? Guess what? They had feathers and you know, what do you call I can't even, the fringes and leather jackets. And come on, man, like, come on, cut it out. So, you know, fashion is what the beauty of it now to me is people are more inclined to push their fashion how they want it than before. A lot of people are afraid to wear certain things or what people would say. And that fear is kind of, you know, been somewhat alleviated. But I always like to remind people of that. Like, you know, you're talking about something, you know, fashion as if this is absolutely brand new. Nobody's done this before.
Right.
Yeah, you've never seen anybody do it. That doesn't mean it hasn't been done. So for me, I don't think that there's anything in particular that's you know, that I would want to come back or missing. I love, you know, what we have now. I think this, let's talk sneakers. Sorry, but the level of sneakers we got now cannot be matched from the 80s. Sorry. In the 80s, there was two sneakers, Adidas and Pumas. And in the early 80s, 70s, it was Pro-Keds and Converse. Forget about it. So now we got, you know, all kinds of Nikes. And I mean, Nikes didn't even exist back then.
Right.
Nikes didn't come in until later. So the late 80s. Prior to that, you know, you only had a couple of different things that people wore. Now you got so many like different variations and colors and flavors, and it pisses me off because the ladies get the flavors and we get the leftovers.
Really? Wow.
Trust me.
I don't know about that.
Yes. Trust me, every time I'm a sneakerhead,
yeah,
I look in the ladies section for the flavor and then go back to the men's to see if we got something comparable. If we don't, I'm looking for my size in the ladies section. The biggest shoe that they had, because I don't got huge feet, so I could fit. If they got if it's a ladies, if it's a men's size 9, then that's a ladies 10, I think, or something like that, 11. So if they have it that big, that means I can fit it. Yeah. And so I'm buying it. I've had plenty of pairs of sneakers that I bought, and dudes was like, "Yo, those are hot."
You're like,
bro. Can't get them.
Sold out, bro. Oh my days. I think yes on the colors, but the thing about women's sneakers is that they're less well made. Does that make any sense? Like there's less panels, less stitching, because
I don't know. It depends.
I think so.
It depends. I got some very well-made Nikes that are just, they're women's sneakers. They didn't make them for men, and you know, they're great. And I've watched, you know, going shopping with my lady, and you go buying sneakers, and I'm like, how come y'all get these and we don't got these? Like she got a pair of Air Force, not Air Force Ones. What do you call them? Damn it, I can't think of the damn name of it now.
Air Max 90.
Air Max. She got the Air Max that you know, these Air Max was so hot, and I'm like, I'm going through the whole Nike store, like, how come they don't have this in my size? And they don't. They only had them for the ladies. I went and asked. It was like, oh, those are only made for women.
Exclusive.
I'm like, that's corny.
Exclusive. Exclusive. You know, sometimes we get the dough, sometimes, you know?
Yeah, man. Trust me, most of the time, especially overseas. When I'm overseas, like in Taiwan, I go sneaker shopping. I'm looking in the ladies section first because they be having flavors. And that's another thing that people don't understand. In each region of the world, they have different sneakers that they don't sell. So if you're in Asia, you can get sneakers that they not gonna sell here in the States.
Exactly.
And the same thing in Europe.
Yup.
So I'll be hustling, like I'm looking like, what y'all got today? What can I get here? What can I put on my feet so when I get home, dudes is like, yo, what are those? Where did you get those? Oh, I got these in Harajuku, son, in Japan. Where's, a word?
You got to catch a flight to get these, you know.
Exactly. If you ballin', you can get these, bro. Get on that plane.
For sure. So then, you know, what are you wearing right now? What's your go-to, maybe? Just to dance, not specifically hip hop dance, whatever. Like, what's the shoe right now for Buddha?
You know what? I miss my go-to used to be these particular Pumas, but I ran them in the ground. We used to rock these in the 90s, and then they reissued them. They started reissuing them a couple of years back, and I bought a pair, and I just, you know, I ran them into the ground dancing, and I haven't bought another one. But right now, my go-to is they're slip-ons. You know, I love sneakers that I just slip on and slip off.
Right.
I don't want to tie nothing. I don't want
no laces.
I don't want no lacings. I don't want no strings. I just want to slip it on and slip it off. You know, that's my go-to. And they're light and comfortable, and I can jump around again and just take them off, and I'm ready to go.
Right.
I'm tired of tying sneakers. So now I've been buying the last, 5 or 6 pairs of shoes I bought are all slip-ons.
I think it's convenient. I see the vision. I hella see the vision. So another question that's kind of percolating, it's not my last question, but something along this topic is, what do you think about, you know, people who think that in order to portray themselves in hip hop dance, they have to be wearing a certain type of dress. They have to be wearing. The top search result. My phone said, "Oh, I want to give it on that." That they have to be wearing the bucket hat, the baggy t-shirt, the baggy pants, the Air Force Ones. What do you think about that? I just want to get your opinion real quick.
Nah.
Ooh.
You know what? That whole hip hop look. First of all, look from where? You know, because in Brooklyn we dressed one way. In Harlem they dressed a different way. In the BX they dressed a different way.
Right.
In Philly they dressed a different way. In LA they dressed completely different. So which look are you going for? You see what I'm saying? Which look are you going for? You know, you show up. If you show up looking like a gangster, you know, you might run into some gangsters, and they're gonna be like, "What's up, cuz?"
Run into some issues.
And then what you gonna do? It's not a costume. It's a culture. You don't put it on and take it off.
How'd you stuff, you know? How'd you stuff?
So if you really about that life, you should just dress to represent you. And
right.
You represent the culture through how you want to look and express, because that's the beauty of the culture. You can wear what you want to wear. You can Absolutely. Be who you want to be, as long as you give to the culture and not just take from it.
Bang, bang. Wow, wow, wow. We're killing it right now. I want to thank you so much for your knowledge once again, and just being
No worries, thank you.
So, last question before we, and I'm giving you a lot of time, you know, we have a couple minutes, because I know we're going to segue into other things. So the question is, how do you think that being from where you are influenced your evolution as an artist, or even just the evolution of hip hop in general? What do you think it is about New York that makes it so uniquely profound?
Nightlife.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Nightlife. We invented it. We've had nightlife forever. And that's a part and parcel of the culture of New York City, the city that never sleeps.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, one of the things, again, to go back to the beginning, as you said, looking back to move forward. When you look back at the history of New York City, you'll find that when they were doing vaudeville, which is pre-Broadway, when they were having the Harlem Renaissance, and during what's called Prohibition, where they outlawed alcohol. All of those things contributed to specific avenues of the culture in New York City to grow, you know. And the fact that you had what they called speakeasies, juke joints, you know, in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, those things were like right after work and then they closed. In New York City, right after work, all the way through the night into the next day, you could do these things. So that made people feel comfortable, be able to open up and do whatever they wanted to do, because you're in a place where that's allowed, that freedom of expression.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had that for literally 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
So and even if you look at certain, like for me, I when I look at different artists in different genres, you know, everyone played in different places, but everybody wanted to play it in New York City at the Apollo or at Madison Square Garden.
Right.
You know, and culturally, everybody has played in clubs and places all over the world, but there were no clubs like New York City. There was no, there's nowhere else where you could get that level of atmosphere and artistry together.
Right.
You know, and everyone, artists from all over the world understood that that's what made them come to New York City.
Mm-hmm.
You know, also we had not only the clubs and iconic venues, but we had TV. You know, before LA became the capital, you know, when the bands wanted to break for Middle America, they did the Ed Sullivan Show.
Right.
You know, that was in the 50s and 60s. That was where? New York City. You know, The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson, God bless the dead, New York City. You know, Radio City Music Hall, New York City. Again, like I said, Madison Square Garden, New York City. These are huge venues and TV shows that are, you know, iconically only in New York.
Absolutely.
And so that contributed to the culture. One of the things that I learned was one of the famous, God bless the dead, tap dancers, his name was Sandman Sims. Sandman was from, I think he said is from like Arizona or somewhere. And he was in LA and he said he couldn't dance on the street after a certain time. So he came to New York where you could dance on the street all time, all day, all the night. No police ain't gonna stop you. Nobody's gonna say nothing to you. And for me, that was, you know, something that made me realize just how beautiful it is that the culture is here. And this is why it exploded and why it is so special. I've told people about the nightlife here. That's the difference in the way that we dance. In the nightlife, you know, people think, you know, they think the clubs is going, you know, it's going to be a bunch of people doing, having ciphers and all of that. And I'm like, no, it's not about that. If you go to a club, you're going to see not just young people dancing, but old people dancing. You know, everybody dancing. And I've had quite a few people that have gone to the clubs here and were surprised. Like, they're like, damn, everybody can dance. Not like doing moves, but they can all have a specific rhythm and feeling that was magic. And I'm like, welcome to New York City.
Told you so. No, I love that. And even past hip hop culture, you know, in music culture, a lot of people come to prove themselves on stages like the Apollo and in Madison Square Garden. And that's like a testament to their career. If you can go there and please that New York audience, you made it, you know? So I want to segue into something I find hilarious. And I want to ask you, do you think that the New York crowd, whatever, you know, art they're receiving, do you think it's inherently a tough crowd because of the circumstances of the city and the way that the city is? Do you think?
I don't know that it's a tough crowd. It's a tough crowd if you don't believe in what you're doing. It's like it's like I'll use the analogy of a dog. A dog can smell your fear.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on the stage at the Apollo, those people can tell the moment you walk out there if you're going to get busy or you're going to get booed. It depends on what you do. If you go out there and get busy, they're going to scream loud and go crazy for you. If you go out there and you're like, boo, you're going to get yanked.
Fair enough.
It's the beauty of it. And one of the things that I think that it's missing from the culture now is what we learn from our brothers in the 5% Nation: show and prove. You know, everybody, you could talk a good game, you could type a good game now, but what happens on URL is one thing, but IRL is another one. You know,
Ooh.
You can type a good game, you can do all of that, but IRL, in real life, when you get confronted, what you gonna do?
Wow.
What you gonna do when
IRL.
Hulkamania,
I'm happy that we are recording this because that is a gem. I hope everyone heard that. URL versus IRL. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So that's a lovely way to sort of tie together all the questions that I had for this lovely gentleman in front of us. And right now, we do have a couple minutes before we open it up to the audience. So, get your questions ready. Put them in the chat. I believe that's what we're being asked to do. Yep, straight into the chat. Got 6 minutes. Ask you another question.
No worries.
For myself personally. Man, on the music. What's the wildest sample you sort of stumbled upon? Because I know what mine is.
Wildest sample?
Yeah, like, you're listening to music and you're like, oh, wow, that's this. Can you think of?
I don't even know. I can't even answer that because there's been so many times that I've run in and I'm like, wait, what? This is this? And I'm like, wow. They flip like, when there's been times where I've run into samples that Premier you. Okay, that's one.
Yeah.
Premier did the song So Ghetto for Jay-Z.
Right.
And I'm listening to it. Now, I'm a Godzilla freak. And I'm bugging out, dancing to this for years, not really realizing that the sample is King Ghidorah.
No way.
Yes, there's a King Ghidorah sound in there. So when that's King Ghidorah. And I happened to be in Japan when I recognized it. And I was like, wait a minute. He sampled King Ghidorah and made it rock. I was like, what? Yo, Primo is crazy. Like, who thinks that way? Like, the way that he used it is crazy.
Insane.
Yeah, so I happened to be in Japan,
right
but when it first came out, I didn't catch it. I happened to be in Japan, and then I'm like, wait, that's King Ghidorah. He put a Godzilla sample in a Jay-Z beat. It was that was the craziest for me.
That's mad. I think like what affects me in terms of like realizing what a sample is the quality of the sound system. Sometimes things pass you by and all of a sudden
you don't hear it right.
The sound system and you're like, no, what do you mean? You're standing there racking your brain like, no, there's no way I missed that for all this time, right? One of my wildest experiences with samples is finding out the way that the sample or the production for Drop by Farside was made, how they had actually put the sample in reverse.
Yep.
I just sat there, took a minute, and I said, okay.
JD, Dilla. Like, who thinks that way?
No one.
We're going to put the sample in reverse, and then Spike Jones is like, okay, we're going to do the video in reverse just to go with the sample. And I'm like, wow, okay.
And then everything plays off of each other, you know. It's like nothing is mutually exclusive, like we've been talking about this whole time. If Dilla made that artistic decision, the director's like, you know what, I'm matching you.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, oh, the samples, oh, you know what? Let's make the whole video in reverse. Genius.
And then years later, still one of the most iconic hip hop videos ever. Oh wow. We can really sit here and bug out y'all for another hour, but we really want to get to your questions and see what you have for our man right here, Buddha Stretch. So I'm opening up the chat. I don't know if I can see anything. Do we have any questions coming through? How many people do we have in here? See if I know anyone. Okay, man, like afternoon, PM. What is up? Thank you for joining us. That day style? Roz, what up? Yofi, what up? Everyone, what up? So right now is the time. Please throw your questions in. Or I will
Afternoon is like, hey, yo, don't blow my cover like that.
It literally says afternoon, bro. Who else is named afternoon? You had to know I was going to do that. You had to know. Come on.
Jokes.
Trying to be here all covert. We don't do that. Well, I do. I'm running the show right now.
You don't have to read the attendees. Wow.
Yes, we're here. It's Kairos, Festival Kairos, with none other than Buddha Stretch. I'm your host, Kosi. We're just waiting for some questions. If anyone would like to say anything.
You know what? I think I'll chime in real quick.
Thank you. Let's get it.
So Buddha, you've mentioned that being a guest is a good thing. And what are ways that guests can contribute to the culture, like you mentioned?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, the contribution is based in what you want to do in the culture. Let's start with breaking. Breaking started in the you know, the hoods with the black and brown people, as they call them. But without our Latino connection, breaking wouldn't exist as you see it now. You know, and they built breaking into what you see it to be now. You know, not the brothers, as we say. So it's your way of contributing. Okay, look at it this way. Let's start again with breaking. You know, guests in the culture. A lot of the early B-boys and even the later B-boys, the newer, the second generation B-boys were influenced by something that is not Black or Latino culture, which is purely Asian culture or Chinese culture, which is martial arts. You know, martial arts flicks were a staple in our community of watching it each week, and people came out with ideas from watching these movies for years. You know, so the inspiration can come from anywhere. And a lot of the times that inspiration is what moves the culture forward. And it's not necessarily from the people that are originally the makeup or the originals in the culture. It's from the guest or from other people in the culture that move the culture forward.
Spot on. Spot on. I hope that answers your question, Hoy.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
No problem. We have another question from he who shall not be named in the chat. He says, a question for Buddha. I want a pair of the Elite Force kicks. Are they still around? And how was that project/experience?
Ooh, wow. That's a really good and terrible question. But no, whatever. Unfortunately, the kicks are not around. We made them. That was it's been a decade. Damn. We made them. We sold a bunch, and then we got a bunch of money, bamboozled from us for those sneakers. That's why they're not around at this time. But we're still in the midst of thinking about doing a new version. We still have designs for the next pairs that we had planned to do. We just haven't gotten around to doing it because the Keep It 100 with you, that was a huge undertaking to build a business around sneakers and selling them, and we got the product done, we made it, but we didn't get the business end of it done. So here's praying to, the ancestors and the Almighty, as we call it, that we'll get a second chance, a second go round at it, especially since the new designs are hotter than the first ones.
Ooh, look at that teaser. Oh.
Hey, got to put it in the air, The universe is conspiring to help me.
Listen, if anybody in attendance knows anything, wants to help out, reach the man. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
I need some. We got designs, baby.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the original silhouette of the kicks? Like, what shoe was it made around?
Hold on. I'll just show it to you because I still happen to have the kicks.
Yes, sir.
Let's give me one. Let's give me the green because that's mine. This is it.
Ooh.
Oh, wait.
Hey, back up. There you go. There it is.
Wait a minute.
Wow.
Why is it doing that? Why are we losing? There it is. And this was the low top. Why is it not? This is weird.
Maybe,
why is it doing that? Hold that for a second.
Maybe put it against your shirt.
Yeah, okay.
There it is.
There it. That's the low top. That's the high top.
Wow, 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 wow.
And we call them Hee-Haw, Elite Force Ones.
Elite Force One with the logo on the other side. That's dope.
Yeah.
Oh, that detailing is dope.
Thank you. Yeah,
wow.
And shout out to my brother Aga, Aga Designs from Taiwan. He designed the sneakers for us. He designed my logo in this T-shirt. He designed the Step Your Game Up logo, the Ladies of Hip Hop logo. He's done a lot. He's a great designer and artist and a great person in general. Nice. So shout out to Aga Designs.
Nice. Now for anyone who wants to sort of, get their stuff get their stuff done, print it on T-shirts, sell merchandise. What was the process like for you? I know you had someone design your stuff. But in terms of manufacturing and selling and dispersing it, was that easy in a way? You said the business part was.
Well, there's a difference in which merchandise you're selling. Mm-hmm. Okay, selling T-shirts, simple, easy. You bring a set number of shirts. Like I could sell my T-shirts in my class. So if I'm teaching a class and I got 30 some odd people, I bring 50 shirts or so, or and I'll sell that number, and then the rest I'll sell in another class. That's simple. Or hats. But sneakers, whole nother game, because hats are one size fits all. T-shirts are small, medium, large. Small, medium, large, XL.
Yeah.
You're not selling XXX T-shirts. I mean, I wasn't. So you have a certain number of small, certain number of medium, and you sell out. But sneakers, totally different, because now you have foot sizes.
Right.
And they're half sizes also. So now you got to have that. You can, and sneakers are heavier than T-shirts and hats combined. T-shirts, hats, sweatshirts combined. So to sell a sneaker, you need to have that has to happen only in a way where someone orders and then you deliver. You need, like, it for today's atmosphere, you would need to do it through something like not eBay, like Amazon, where you order it online and then it's shipped to you. Right. Because there's no way to carry boxes of sneakers. So if I got 30 people in class and they want to buy sneakers, that means I got to bring, like, 100 different pairs of sneakers so we can go through sizes and colors. Because remember, there's 4 different colors of our sneakers. Colors of our sneakers. So yeah, it was the the way of moving that kind of merchandise. We just weren't prepared for that.
Right.
We didn't have the proper business plan for that. I know how to do it now.
Not then.
And back then I kind of knew, but it wasn't just me. And so we were kind of going back and forth on how to do it. And then we ran into issues, and we just decided, what, let's take the L on this and keep it moving. You live and you learn. If you don't learn, then you don't live.
No doubt about it. I hope that answers your question, viewer. I'm not going to say your name. He's totally going to hit me up after this and be like, yo, what's up, man? All right. Next question from another viewer. It says, were you present during the early days of Bruck Up and Flex in Brooklyn, the TV program? And Flex in Brooklyn. If so, what was that like? And what was the reception of the hip hop community to this new style?
Okay, let me clarify something. I'm from Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And when you say Bruck Up is a person. Okay, Bruck Up was a person before it was a style. Now, I was in Brooklyn when that person came from Jamaica, and I know him very well. And I was around for the beginnings of, when he danced. He's, basically from my generation. It's a little bit younger, but I know Bruck Up personally. As far as flexing the style, I don't know about the TV program or whatever, but, I was around when I first saw the style. My introduction to it was through a brother, Reggie Reg, and Storyboard, when he was called the Professor. He wasn't Storyboard yet, and that was my introduction to it. And so that was, was this mid-2000s? So no, I wasn't in Brooklyn when they started flexing, but I was in Brooklyn with Bruck Up, the person.
Wow. Another narrative. This is why we enjoy having you. Yeah. But, what do you think, even if you weren't there, did you hear traces of sort of what was going on, how it was integrating into Brooklyn and how?
I'm born and raised in Brooklyn.
Right.
I've moved from Brooklyn in the early 2000s, but I've never left Brooklyn. My whole family basically lived in Brooklyn, so I was always back and forth. And when I saw it, to me, it was they're basically doing what we did. They're taking bits and pieces of different things and blending them into something else. And for me, I was seeing a lot of movement from popping and dancehall being mixed and blended together to create something new. And originally, what I was told is what it was called flexing, and, it was inspired and by Bruck Up, the person. And then later, I learned that Bruck Up and flexing were 2 separate things. They've split. So I can't give you any, anything other than that, because like I said, when I met those brothers that did it, and a few others, like I met Drew Dollars, what's her name, Kid Kat, I'm trying to remember. I've seen I've seen a bunch of flexers over the years, but for me, the base of it, when I first saw it, I just identified it as, oh, they're than mixing popping and dancehall.
Right.
You know, when they told me about Bruck Up, I'm like, Bruck Up? You mean Bruck Up from Jamaica?
Yeah.
Like for me, I know Bruck Up. Bruck Up's a person, not a dance.
Right.
He's doing his dance. So it was explained to me that, you know, that's how they, you know, that was what was the inspiration.
Mm-hmm. And this ties back to sort of.
Oh, and shout out to my man Classic.
No doubt. This ties back together to what we were talking about, doing your own research, you know, and not just, you know, it's interesting to hear your narrative, which is probably different from what this person who brought up the question is experiencing or has heard, and being able to sort of go there and then piece things together and find your own understanding. So thank you again for that. It says we'll wrap it up in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. It's been a lovely, lovely conversation. So happy to be here. If anyone has any last minute questions, the floor is yours.
By all means.
By all means.
Don't be scared.
He won't bite. Trying not to shout out the attendees because I'm not meant to do that.
Don't say my name, damn it.
My bad. But I will say this: how is this COVID situation around where you are? You know, how has that affected sort of the way that you?
First and foremost, I want people to stop with this. It's a pandemic nonsense. And that, you know, it's a hoax or whatever. I've had 7 different friends lose their parents. I'm going to say that again. I've had 7 different friends lose their parents to this thing. So it's real. And we in the US of A are suffering greatly because of it. People tend to think that, you know, it's government sponsored and it's a hoax and it's this and that. This is a global pandemic. You know, it's not just affecting us, it's affecting everywhere. How do I know this? Because I travel, and I'm not traveling right now because the world is closed. And people need to understand that it's not just affecting you, it's affecting us all. It's a global thing. They're going into their second lockdowns in Europe and in some parts of Asia, you know? So, you know, it's not a beautiful thing, and people need to stop with it. You know, it's a hoax and all this other nonsense. It's only a hoax until somebody, you know, dies.
Right. Right. I think things don't hit you until it's personal, until it's close to home.
Listen, man, tomorrow is not promised, and people need to understand that and start thinking for today. You know, we lost a lot of good people this year. You know, and we're going to lose a lot of more people as things progress. So I would advise people to, you know, say I love you to the people that mean something to you now, because, you know, if you wake up, it's a gift. That's why it's called the present.
Woof. Wow. Yes, we urge everyone here, do your due diligence, please. Protect yourself, protect people around you. If you don't gotta go nowhere, stay put. All right, we have another question, which will probably be our last, and it's from he who shall not be named once again. As OGs are leaving us, like Don Campbell,
God bless you.
we're seeing a lot of people claim the culture and trying to change the narrative. What are you thinking about that? And what do you think can be done to preserve their legacy and memory? I think that's a perfect question to end off on.
Well, it goes back full circle to, again, what the first thing that I said, you know, do your own research. Don't listen to what people tell you. For me, first and foremost, the story is not and has never been with one person. Okay, it's always a group of people. So if you want the truth, you need to speak to a group of people who are around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's their stories that interconnect that gives you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are talking about Don Campbell and locking, if they're not mentioning the other people that were around that contributed to Don Campbell. Okay, he was trying to do a dance called the Funky Robot Shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who was doing that dance? A gentleman called Charles the Robot, Washington. They were in the hood in LA, South Central, South Central Watts. So those people from that time were all there. They
Mm-hmm.
went to specific clubs,
Mm-hmm.
like Mavericks Flats.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember the Citadel and
Mm-hmm.
other clubs these are the names of the clubs that I was told.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about Don, you got to talk about Tony Basil. You got to talk about Scooby-Doo. You got to talk about Demeter Joe Freeman. You got to talk about Tony Gogo, OG Skeeter Rabbit, Fluky Luke, Shabba-Doo, the whole Soul Train gang. You got to talk about the people that were around that lived it besides Don. So you get Don's side and then you get the sides around that give you the whole story, not just one view of the story. Oh, God bless. Sensei, I'm sorry. Greg Campbellock Jr.
Yes.
So again, if you want the whole story, that's a conversation with all of the elders, not one of the elders. It's the same way if you want to talk about the beginnings of hip hop freestyle. People take what I say as the gospel, but it's not just what I'm saying. Talk to the other people that were around. You really want to find out a whole different aspect of it, you should talk to other people that were there, like Scoob Lover from Scoob and Scrap and Big Daddy Kane. Or Big Daddy Kane, he'll tell you a whole different story, which will intersect directly with mine, Or if you talk to some of the DJs who were there, DJ Clark Kent, DJ Red Alert, Jazzy Jeff was there, you talk to the rappers at that time, like I said, Big Daddy Kane, Public Enemy, Houdini, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. The best to talk to, the Bizmarkie, Biz Markie. Biz Markie was there in all the clubs. I mean, that's my man. Like, I was there when he made up his dance. And he'll tell you who was doing what because he was there. Right. And once you listen to these people's stories, they all interconnect. That's the truth. So it's not just what I'm saying. You can check what I'm saying with these people because they're going to tell you a different aspect, a different perspective of the same story. The problem arises is when people come up with their own story and try to fit it in there and nobody else co-signs because they don't know who they're talking about or who that person is.
Right.
Those are the people that are lying.
If I hear all these different perspectives and narratives and not in none of them you are mentioned, raises an eyebrow. Definitely. I hope that answers your question. Like we've talked about all this time, it's about piecing together things for yourself. And like you said, it's all a Rubik's Cube, finding each corner until you can piece together your own understanding of the thing. And with that being said, I would like to say my thank yous. Definitely thank you to OG, Buddha Stretch. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Thank you for everyone who attended. Thank you for putting your questions in the chat. It made everything come to sort of a final conclusion that was lovely. Thank you to Kairos for having me as your host. And any last words, Buddha, before we...
I want to thank Kairos for, having me as the guest. I want to thank all the people that have, participated. I want to give a big shout out to Real City because, the people from Montreal are who brought all kinds of flavor to the culture when they invaded New York. You know, and I for one, I don't know if anybody else is going to say it, but I've been saying it. I appreciated it. They came to support, and they left here. They left, you know, more than they think they know. You know, they left a big impact on the culture here in the city and the culture here in the States. Because there's a lot of people from different places that didn't know Montreal, didn't know Real City, you know, could bring it like that. And when they left New York City, they was talking about Real City. So I want to give, you know, a particular shout out to, you know, I'm not going to go through the gamut of people because there's mad people. He who is not to be named knows what I'm talking about. So, yeah, I want to give them a special shout out, you know, and I want to give thanks to, you know, everybody that, you know, is into the culture. I just want to say, you know, the culture gives back when you give to it, you know, and it has enriched so many people's lives globally, you know, and it will continue to do that. But, you know, we have to acknowledge that it's a culture based, you know, on not being Black, but Black people. You know, it's a culture based on Black and African culture. There's nothing wrong with that. The universe is based on that, you know, and when we say that, we're not being anti anything. You know, we're just trying to be specific. You know, you're building off of, acknowledge what the foundation is. You know, acknowledge what the foundation. You can build whatever you want. Acknowledge what the foundation is.
Right. So I'll say this. This is my closing remark. The narrative and the education doesn't end here. The stories don't end here. They continue. So please interact with your loved ones, ask the questions, come to conversations and conferences like this, because there's so much knowledge, there are gems here. There are things that can add, like you said, to you and to the culture as a whole.
Yeah, people. And just, I want to close with this. Learning never stops. Never stops. So you should not be afraid to take class, to, you know, to not be, you know, strong in everything. To weakness breeds strength. You know, we all come from the same place. Nobody comes out of the womb, you know, ready to go. You have to grow, and growing is sometimes painful.
Right.
But it's worth it, because you grow, you learn, you become more powerful. And you become more powerful the more you learn. And the more you learn, you know, it's a cycle. It does not stop. It's infinite.
I see our guy here. Thank you again, Buddha, for that. I see our guy here, so I'm going to pass it off. Peace, blessings, everybody.
All right, yes, I have to end it on this. Thank you so much, Kosi. Thank you so much, Buddha Stretch, for accepting to participate at this conference. Storytelling is such an important part of what we do, and just learning, because we don't have access to everything online. There are just some things that you can't fake, like these conversations. So even though it's a pandemic, we try to make things happen. So thank you for this. Merci à tout le monde d'avoir été là. Donc, toutes ces conversations-là, c'est vraiment une partie importante de la culture. Et puis, Buddha Stretch et Kosi nous ont permis d'expérimenter ça malgré la pandémie. Donc, je tiens à les remercier. So, the next conference we're having is next week on Friday, November 28th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be with P. Boogie from the Great One-Eighters and 7-Star Crump Pioneer from Montreal, Canada. La prochaine conférence aura lieu le 20 novembre à 5h30, heure de l'Est. Et c'est cool, I'm on a Zoom conference right now. Conversation entre 7-Star, qui est un pionnier de Crump du Canada. Donc, je remercie tout le monde. Merci d'avoir été là. Thank you everyone for being here, and have a good evening.
Thank you.